Hey guys, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're gonna focus on how to construct and interpret the confidence interval for population mean. So before we get started, please go to your Google Classroom, pull up your material. So today we're gonna focus on our objective number 3 in 8.3. Let me show you that. Construct and interpret a confidence interval for population mean. So over here, in 8.2, we already learned how to construct and interpret a confidence interval for population proportion. Over here, everything does not change too much. The only thing difference is when you do our plan part, we are using one sample we are using one sample t interval for the mean instead of one sample z interval for the proportion. So please go to your PowerPoint number 13. Okay. All right. So every time when we construct and constructing a confidence interval, I need you to lay out your 4-step plan. And this is very important in your AP test. Number one, you need to state what you are looking for. So over here, since we are constructing a confidence interval, you're gonna say we want to find how many percent interval for blah blah blah. In 8.3, we're gonna find the how many percent interval for our population mean, which is blah blah blah. Number two, you're gonna lay out your plan. You're gonna say what inference you want to use. In 8.2, we are using one sample z interval for proportion. Or in this chapter, we are using one sample t interval for mean. And also, no matter you are using t interval or z interval, you need to check your conditions. And again, in last lesson, we learned when we check conditions, everything is a little bit different than the proportion. Especially when we see if they are normal or not. We are not using large count condition anymore. We are comparing to 30 or the distribution of the population. Number three is actually you're gonna do it. You're gonna use the formula to calculate your confidence interval. We're gonna review the formula again in a little bit, and also we're gonna review how to find out your critical value. And number four is make your conclusion, which is interpret your confidence interval. We already practice a lot. You're gonna say we are how many percent confident that within interval what to what capture our true value, blah blah blah. Okay, so we basically just doing the same thing, but instead of finding the proportion, we are finding the confidence interval for mean. All right, look at this example 4 very quick, and we will do this step by step together. And again, I will use 2 different files. Number one, I will use my note file from last time. I will upload in the Google Classroom. I will do that, and another method I'm gonna use is my whiteboard. So when we look at the note, we're gonna go a little bit back and forth. Okay. All right. A million tabs open. Lesson for you don't have a million tab of open. All right. Here we go. Okay. So let's read example 4. So they said in the previous session you learned about 73 of American adults claim to have read book in previous 12 months. That was based on a 2016 Pew Research Center study that interviewed a random sample of 1,520 American adults. The same study also reported that the average of a book read by the member of the sample was 12 books, and the standard deviation is 18 books. So number one, they ask you to construct and interpret a 95% confidence interval for the mean number. So again, when you read the question, I always want you to record everything you have read in math language. So I will say PPT page 14, example 4. Okay. All right. So they said the proportion is 73. So no matter it's about this question or not, I will just record everything I see over here. So proportion is 73, and so okay, so this proportion I think is the sample proportion. So we're gonna use P is equals to 73%. Okay. Again, I'm not sure if this is useful for this information question or not. I just writing it down. And then they said they take a random sample of 1520 American adults. N equals to, that's your sample size, 1520. And the same study also report that average number of books read by the member of the sample was X bar equals to 12 books. This is our sample mean. Let's do that. X bar is equals to 12 books. All right, and the standard deviation Sx is 18 books. X of X is equals to 18 book. And over here they said construct and interpret a 95% confidence interval. So your confidence level is 95%. Okay, and that is all the information we know. All right, so they said construct and interpret, so we need to start with our first state process with a state. So what we're gonna state over here, we're gonna figure out what we want to find. So over here, what we want to find is 95% confidence interval is what we want to find. So basically, you just read the question and look at 95% confidence interval is what we want to find. So 95% confidence interval for what? Over here is for our mean, which population mean we use mu, equals to what is your population mean? So the population mean will be the true mean number of books read by all American adults in the past 12 years, 12 months. Okay, so over here, the state part, we're done. We are looking for 95% confidence interval for mu is equals to true mean number of books read by all American adults in the past 12 months. The second step, we're gonna do our do step. Let me capitalize all of this so you can see it better. Do part, we want to figure out a plan. Our plan over here is one sample, since we're trying to figure out the confidence interval for population mean. So we want to use one sample t interval for population mean. Okay, again, we're going to use mu. Where's my mu? Oh, this is not the mu. Okay, and then we're going to check condition. Over here, we have three things to check from last lesson. Check condition, we're gonna check random. Is that random? Read your question. They said random sample of 1520 American adults. So it is random. Random sample of American adults. They mentioned random? Check. And the second one, we need to check for 10% condition for independent. So over here, again, the reason why we want to make sure it's independent, because only if it's independent, we can use the standard deviation formula. Okay? All right. So n is equals to 1520 is less than 10% of all American adults. The sample is less than 10% of the population, which does make sense because in America we have to have like about 15,000 adults, right? More than that. So n equals 1520 is definitely less than 10% of American adults. We don't have that much data to choose, so like we didn't choose that much data, so we can assume each one of them is independent. 10% of condition pass, and then we're gonna see if the number is large enough. We're gonna check for normal. So over here, we do not know if this what is the distribution of the population. You do not have a graph or a chart for that. So the only thing we can say that it is approximately normal is we're gonna look at the sample size if it's more than 30. And we look at the sample size, n equals to 1520. It's actually greater or equal to 30. So, which means we can assume it is approximately normal. It's 30, so approximately normal. Check. Okay, so over here, we check our condition. All of them are met, so we are good over here. Next step, we need to actually calculate it. What's that called? That's called, this is not do, this is plan. We're gonna make our plan. I'm sorry about that. So let's change it very quick. And then next one, we're gonna actually do it.